I think we're going to get started in the interest of being respectful to everyone's time. I'm sure Seth will join us when he is able. So we're being recorded, and I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Operations Planning Committee for Wednesday, November 18th to order. First, I want to welcome Duke Deneen to our virtual table today in his new capacity as the chairman of the Board of Education. Duke, we're very happy to have you. You've been at the table many times, but we're happy to have you in your new leadership capacity. Welcome.
Thank you, Jamie. Happy to be here. Appreciate that.
Great. And why don't we start with you, Duke, and give us an update on schools. Go from there.
Sure. Thanks, Jamie. As everyone may know, we were switching over to a hybrid model for the high school and the middle school effective on Monday the 16th. Thanks to our weather challenges, we were without power at many schools on Monday. So we got back up and running on Tuesday. Tokenique still had a power challenge Tuesday morning, which we're still trying to figure out based on information we've got from Eversource, and Jamie and Ed Gentile and all were just incredibly helpful from a communication standpoint around all of that, working with Alan and the team and keeping me informed. So all schools are back up and running from a power standpoint, and the high school and the Middlesex are in a hybrid mode right now. A quick COVID update from a school perspective. As of last night in talking to Alan, we currently have 20 cases that we're tracking, a high at the high school of 8, Middlesex 3, Hindley 2, Holmes 4, Oxbridge none, Royal 1, Tokenique 2, Central Services none. And our current quarantine number is 295. If you look at cumulative cases, we've had a total of 44 cases, and we've quarantined up to 621 folks. So that's kind of the status. As you know, that those numbers from a quarantine perspective and current cases include staff and teachers, and you know, that presents its challenges in terms of staffing. I will say that several members of the community went out and have really rallied around getting substitutes to help with covering classes. And in speaking to Alan last night, I think Marge has gotten over 40 folks that have applied and expressed interest to be substitutes, which will be tremendously helpful as this continues. We've kicked off, the schools and the principals and Alan have kicked off the budget process. I know there'll be a lot more conversation around that. I've had some preliminary conversations with Mr. Zagrodzky and looking to get him on the agenda at the Board of Ed meeting to speak to the board generally about overall finances and the budget process. If anyone noticed driving around town, it was great yesterday. A big shout out to the CDSP in decorating and putting all kind of posters and heart balloons around all the school campuses, thanking our staff and teachers. So, you know, a big shout out to them for all the hard work of getting all that stuff set up. So when the teachers showed up yesterday morning, that was all out there to greet them, which was great. We did have a facilities committee meeting last week, ongoing discussions and presentation around the removal of the portables and the library redesign. The scope of that meeting, the scope of that presentation has kind of gone outside of that a little bit, and there's good work that's been done around looking at other challenges in the schools that have come up over the years, some of it going back to our master plan. So I'm trying to spend some time with the facilities committee to get focused and zero in on what the priorities are, which is removing the portables and the library redesign. But I think some of the information will be good to put into a broader plan in terms of what we may need to do for our facilities, and it plays into conversations I've had with John Zagrodzky about, you know, what our needs are going to be and how we project them out. So more conversation to be had on that. But the the plan for the library redesign and the portables will be presented at the next Board of Ed meeting Tuesday for discussion. Ox Ridge continues to move forward. Several meetings this week around bids. It looks like it will be shortly after Thanksgiving where that project should start to ramp up, shovel in the ground. As I think it's been said before, that has come in under budget so far, which is exciting. There is a meeting this evening for the Ox Ridge community, presenting kind of the plan to them and the phases as to how this is going to start. So that should be a good meeting. And then we're also updating the Board of Ed next week around the kickoff to the Ox Ridge project.
Let's try and continue with Duke. Duke, was that the end of your report, or do you have something more you'd like to say?
No, I think that's a good update where we are. Excited to be in the role, have some good meetings and reaching out to folks. Jamie and I have spent some time together, John Zagrodzky, Jim Palin, got some meetings set up with the CDSP and some other folks. And I just look forward to working with all of you. And I think the name of the game is just ongoing open communication and dialogue. So I look forward to it. Things are going to change and change rapidly in this COVID world, and we'll monitor it. And my goal is just to be connected to this group, so we stay in touch.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your update, and thank you for being here in your new leadership capacity. We will move on to Board of Finance Chair John Zagrodzky. Good morning, John.
Morning, thanks. I appreciate it. I'll be brief. So on my side, we had our meeting last night, and one thing that came out of that was election of officers, and we had one change to make. So Frank Huck is stepping down as vice chairman, and Jim Palin has assumed that role, so he will be vice chairman for the next year. I'll remain as chair, and Dan Baumgartner will remain as the board secretary. So both Jim and Frank are great board citizens. I think the world of Frank. He's done a tremendous job, and really is just an amazing individual, smart, capable, and dedicated. Jim brings huge energy and technical expertise in the debt markets to the board, which has also been quite valuable. So we are well served by both those gentlemen. We also discussed last night a project that's been ongoing for some time, which is around rethinking the town's capital reserves, and the combination of Jim, Dan Baumgartner, and Taylor Carter working with the town staff, including Jen Charneski, as well as Jack Davis from F&B, have crafted what we think is a much better and more streamlined approach to these capital reserves, both in terms of why they get set up, how they're funded, how money is drawn from them and spent, and then how they're managed. And I think that I won't go into details on all of it, but it's been an iterative process. I think we've come out to a really good spot on that. The board approved moving forward with it, and the recommendations from that task force will be incorporated as part of the budget process this year. So more to come on that. We also discussed guidance for the upcoming budget season. I prepared a slide, which I'll also show in my State of the Town address, that offers guidance to both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education. I'm going to circulate that around to both boards, actually the board chairs, so JBU and Duke will get copies of that. And then we'll, of course, post it on our website so the public can access it, and it'll be part of my State of the Town address. But that'll provide some guidance for everybody to take a look at and consider as we are starting the budget process this year. Finally, the State of the Town address, I'm working on that right now from my side. It'll be shorter. And my understanding is we're going to be doing a virtual format for that meeting. So what I'll try to do is have not just a shorter presentation, but a few slides that I can put up and show everybody, as I've done in years past, a more visual perspective on some of our finances. So that's all from my end, unless anybody had any questions.
Questions for John? Okay, thank you very much, John. Congratulations on continuing your chairmanship, and also to Jim and Dan. Appreciate it.
For me, it's one of the C words. It's either congratulations or condolences. I can't keep it straight, so it's one of those two words.
You're doing a very good job at the helm, so thank you. All right, we'll move on to Steve Ulvaney, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Can you just bear with me one second? I'm going to grab some stuff to print. I apologize. Sorry about that. I'm back. Yes, thank you, Jamie. Thank you, everybody. Also, first off, congratulations, Terry Wood, on her re-election to her position as one of our 10 representatives. I appreciate that in your hard work up in Hartford. Since our last OPC meeting, there's a couple of things that are going on. First off, we did have election of officers again in on the Planning and Zoning Commission. There were really no changes in officers. I was reelected as chairman. Jen Leahy was reelected as vice chairman, and Jim Rand is again our secretary of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We did also post our calendar for our meetings for next year. There's something like 30 or 32 meetings on our calendar starting as of January 1st. The one change we did make to our meeting calendar, our meetings typically, or our meetings always start at 8 p.m. We're moving the start time of our meetings to 7:30 p.m. Our meetings had a suggested stop time of 11 p.m., so it would be a 3-hour meeting, and we're going to change that to 10 p.m. So we're going to have a suggested stop time of 10 o'clock to make our meetings 2.5 hours on the outside versus 3 hours on the outside. What else? Again, as John said, I do know that we're going to have the town of the town address. I'm told it's in like December, that Monday in December, like December 7th or something like that. So Jeremy has started to pull together some concepts. We're trying to figure out concepts of how our speech is going to go, which would be nice. If you could just someone give me a time slot to make sure if it's going from 20 minutes to 5 minutes, I'll make sure the speech is only 5 minutes long, because I was told that it is also virtual. With regards to what's going on in Darien, as an update to our last meeting, we've had continuing discussions with the other 7 towns that are with regards to our peer group. It's not really called the DIRG, but it is kind of a DIRG. Some of those discussions circulate around what's going on up in Hartford relative to the some bills that were drafted. There's been really no, consensus of opinion on those bills yet, and there's nothing that's really public relative to that. The people from WestCog, and specifically Francis Pickering, who I think is the executive director of WestCog, has been super helpful to the towns that are in our district or in our area, working through some issues and how to deal with that. Me personally, I don't think local control and planning and zoning is a political issue. I think it's a town by town or local issue. I really don't want it to be a political issue, but I think in today's world it may end up being a political issue. So I'm going to try to keep that at bay. With regards to other stuff in town, I do have one question real quick. I'm sorry, for Duke Deneen. Every single school's got a generator, so I'm hoping those generators work because we approved those before.
The generators work. The generators don't power the entire school. They power a lot of things that need to be powered on to prevent damage around pumps and water and heating and stuff like that. But yeah, they all work, and they all work like they're supposed to, but not to get the schools up and running.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to do life safety.
Yes.
Maybe the heat or the safety lights on. They're not.
Yes.
They should not be big enough to power the entire school at 100%. Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Make sure
Good question. Thanks.
No problem. Then with regards to items that are on our list, at our last meeting, I gave you a heads up that there was a 7-Eleven proposed in town at the old Duchess site. That application was filed on August 13th. Just for public edification, we've had already 3 meetings reviewing that application. We've had about 6.5 hours of public meetings on it and hearings. We don't have any meeting. We didn't have a meeting last night. We do have a meeting next week. There's going to be another, I think, hour and a half dedicated to that application also. There's no preconceived conclusions or notions or anything relative to that. There was 3 traffic studies that were submitted so far. The police department and the local traffic authority also chimed in on the application. The 3 traffic studies, the first one was sent back. The second one was asked to be reviewed again, and our own internal or our own town traffic peer review study person is still working on his review of it. So we'll see it goes from there. One data point that I have to circle back with the police department is in one of the documents that we got from the local traffic authority, in that realm of town between Old Kings Highway and the exit 13 intersection, last, I think it's about 5.5 years, there was 154 accidents in that strip, or incidents that were reported to the police department. I'm going to ask the police department or the local traffic authority if that's a lot or little and what we can do about it. We did the same exact thing in terms of precedents when Trader Joe's expanded at their location. So there's no.
Steve, would you mind just repeating those statistics again on accidents at that intersection?
There's 3 intersections that the police department was asked to look at my request through Jeremy. They sent back statistics that at the intersections between Old Kings Highway, where Trader Joe's and Chase Bank is and Rory's is, going down to exit 13, which is past where the Duchess is. There were 154 accidents over the last 5.5 years to date when the reports were pulled at those intersections.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That's a document that was submitted, a memo that was submitted to the P&Z departments in the public record. In order of magnitude, that's where we need the police department to chime in at. And we don't want to exacerbate that by any stretch of the imagination. If there are ways that we can make that less, like we did for Trader Joe's when they expanded that center, that is usually a good thing. Let me just check my notes here again. I think that's it. That's the highlights. Any questions? I'm open for questions.
Yes, Steve, thank you very much. Certainly there's been a lot of outpouring of comments on 7-Eleven. I've received many comments, all negative about the proposal. Taking an opportunity for some public information, could you share a little bit, please, with us about, the latitude of the Planning and Zoning Commission, how you make your decisions, under which you can approve or disapprove something? I understand that it's a little bit more complex than just, not preferring a certain application. I think there's a lot more to it from a regulatory perspective. So whatever you can share today for the public procedurally, legally, I think would be helpful.
Thank you. Yes, it's the Planning and Zoning Commission is a quasi-judicial board. It is not, by any stretch of imagination, majority rules. If you go way back when I think Susan Marks's children were in the middle school, they had a petition to put lights at the high school probably 15 years ago. I think the entire town or half the town signed it. That still got denied. I think if you flip it the other way, when David Genovese proposed either Shake Shack or the Corbin District, he got like 2,000 hits approving that project or asking us to approve that project. So that really doesn't happen. So on the flip side, if you have a lot of people that do a petition or don't really want it for just because, it's not majority rule on our board. What we look at is consistency with the town plan of conservation and development that our most recent one was drafted in 2016. We look at traffic aspects, because there is a special permit requirement there. And of course, we look at site plans and setbacks and building heights and use and lights and all those aspects. We do that on every single application. The setback issues, there are no setback issues with this application. There are no height issues with this application. We do have requirements on lighting and suggestions on lighting and how that could be done. They have asked for a couple of variances. I think at one point in time, there was 3 variances which were sent to a different board, which is the Zoning Board of Appeals. One was for a sign. We just redid our sign regulations a few years ago. After we did the town PDOC, the original sign proposal was, I think, a 20-foot tall stanchion sign. That needed a variance. I think that request has been taken back, and they don't ask for that anymore. Now I think the new sign's going to be, a proposed sign is supposed to be about a 7-foot or 6-foot monument sign. The location of the sign is also an issue. According to our regulations, it has to be about 25 feet off the road. There is no place to put it 25 feet off the road, so that would be in the middle of their parking lot or in the middle of their island. They may or may not get a variance for that. If they don't get a variance, maybe they don't even have a sign. And the third one, there's a law that's on the books that says that the ZBA has to look at any gas stations that are in town. There's been some discussion that does that law still exist or not exist anymore. The applicant has put it in anyway, just as a they want to put it in advance. I don't think the ZBA has acted upon that. The application also goes to the Architectural Review Board. The Architectural Review Board, which is a recommending board for any building in town, be it Shake Shack, or be it the federal project, or be it the either the Corbin District or the other ones. They look at it and they chime in on various things. At this point, they've not written a letter or a report that says they've approved any designs that have come in. I think I answered most of your questions, but it's a long process. The application is a statutory time frame for the application to be closed, or the hearings to be closed, and that doesn't happen until January. So we're going to have another hearing now. I think we're going to add a special meeting in December after the town address to have a time for public comment. It is definitely, and I need to speak to probably Duke on this, it is definitely hard to have a public meeting over a Zoom or GoToMeeting. And I asked Jeremy to reach out to Kate Bush. I know at one point in time, and I'm pretty sure the Board of Education uses Zoom, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a limit on number of participants that could go into it. And I think at one of your meetings, you maxed out at that limit. I don't know if GoToMeeting or we have the ability to have 100 people on Zoom.
Yeah, Steve, in this format, you have a cap of 250 people.
Okay.
And this format is more flexible in terms of being able to see who's there. It's also more vulnerable to people like our little caller before. The GoToWebinar that we've used for the RTM meetings, you can have 500 people, but the only people that you'd be able to see on screen, there's a limit to the number of people you can see on screen. It does give you a little bit more control where, people have to raise their hands to speak. You can control that. So, I can work with Jeremy on what you guys want to do.
If you can work with Jeremy and Fred on that, that'd be great. Fred's usually the quarterback and controls the meeting, I think, like you do in this meeting now, and can put people in and put people out. We definitely need to be able to mute people. I want everyone to be able to have a chance to talk, but I don't want people throwing in comments if they've already spoken, like happened in our last 2 meetings.
Yeah, I mean, that is the advantage to GoToWebinar, is that you can mute everybody very easily. And clearly, with this format, people can unmute themselves. we can't keep them muted. So I'll talk to Jeremy and Fred and work that out.
Thank you.
Hey, Stephen, from a
Yes.
Board of Ed perspective, we did run into a cap, but to Kate's point, we expanded it, I think, up to 1,000 people. We now, for public comment, have a person from the IT team that's kind of a moderator that looks for who has raised their hand, asks them to state their name and address, and then opens them up to speak. So that's kind of the controlling side of it. You may need someone there to kind of do that process, which has helped as we've done public comment.
Yeah, that's what we do at the RTM meeting. So I think
Yeah.
Fred and Jeremy could manage that easily.
Yeah, and I want to move on because this is getting into the weeds. It's off topic, but is there a person that does that job in the the RTM meetings? Because Fred is an integral part of the P&Z department. Okay, we may ask.
Right now, that's me, but I'll work with them.
Thank
Okay.
you. Great.
Because I don't want to go to your meeting.
That's okay. You're allowed to. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, can I add one thing?
Sure.
We did get a draft report from the subcommittee on all those bills. It's being reviewed, and right now it's just an internal document. So at our last meeting, we did talk about it, but we haven't done anything with it yet. We're still getting comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Any other questions for Steve? No, then we'll move on to Terry if she's available.
Yeah, I'm here. It's unstable connection made me highly suggested to turn off the webcam. Certainly a couple things I will mention. I think, Jamie, it'll be a large part of your report as well, is the session doesn't start, we start January 6th this year. Have no idea yet what the public process will look like, the public hearing process, which is such a critically important part of any legislation we hear subject matter on. So we're waiting for those details to be worked out among the legislative leaders in all 4 caucuses. Key issues will be the state control of local zoning. That continues to gather a lot of enthusiasm. So I certainly will be getting a lot of information out on that so people understand what it looks like and why it's important to let your opinion be known on it. Education certainly will be another key issue because the kids in the urban districts, I think, are struggling with the school, the hybrid model of learning. Some of the kids, the truancy rates are higher than normal. So its attendance rates are higher than normal. So there's some critical issues we have to pay attention to there. And then lastly is the budget. With the income down, rainy day fund will be depleted this year in the budget process. So this is an opportunity to look at what we can do to truly look at our spending patterns and what we can do to put our state on a path of fiscal stability. And I think that's it. I'd also like to offer ditto congratulations to Duke, Steve, and John on their election as chair. And the last note I'll mention is, obviously, we all know that the coronavirus cases are increasing. However, it's the hospitalization rate is less than it was in the spring, and the critical care cases are less than they are in the spring. Doctors and the medical community are far better equipped to know how to handle cases of coronavirus, and early intervention is proving to be very successful. Ventilation cases are, in fact, a couple of days ago, there was no one on vents at Stanford Hospital. So we do absolutely need to take precautions, and the 3 W's I heard yesterday: wash your hands, keep a distance, and I can't remember exactly how it was W, but it's W, within a distance, I guess. And then the other one is to wear a mask, and those are proving to be statistically keeping the virus at bay. So that's it for me. Any questions? Certainly. Yeah, if you all have thoughts for legislation, this would be a good time to touch base on those ideas.
Thank you, Terry. I would like to continue to press for the ability to use paramedics for wellness checks, blood pressures, that sort of thing. I don't know where that kind of legislation stands in Connecticut, but we're lucky now to have in-town paramedics, and they could be checking in and visiting our seniors and vulnerable residents and providing some of those services so that folks don't have to go into a hospital setting or to a doctor's office, which is very challenging, and a lot of fear around that right now with COVID.
Right, good point. I will check on that. That was legislation that was supposed to be a test. They were going to do a small group focus on that, and I will find out where it ended up.
Well, I'd certainly like to offer up the town of Darien if Stamford EMS and Post 53 would be agreeable to participate in a test like that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else for Terry?
I have 2 questions for Terry, please, Jamie.
Yep.
Hey, Terry, and maybe it might be either Jamie or Terry. I have 2 kids coming back from college via airplane. Do they have to get tested by the state law in Connecticut, same as New York, after they arrive here? Do you know?
They have to be tested either within 72 hours of returning and bring their negative test result with them, or tested as soon as possible upon arrival, and they must quarantine while they're waiting to get a test, and then once tested until they get a negative result at whatever their destination location is here in Connecticut.
Okay, so they're leaving their Ohio and California. They're being tested like today. They're coming back Friday, Saturday. They have to get tested again once they get in Connecticut.
I'll check on that. I'm not sure that you need a second test, Steve, but let me check on that for you.
And that last piece of the puzzle of the question is, in their last meeting, you were very articulate about PCR tests and rapid tests and what tests. Are you still allowed to go to Docs and get the one that you get the answer back in a half hour? You have to go to some other place.
So I'm going to get into testing a little bit in my report, but Docs Urgent Care, from what I understand, offers only the antigen test, which is that rapid, 15-minute turnaround. That is not considered to be the gold standard. There are a lot of false results with the antigen test. The antigen test is a reliable test if you are symptomatic only. So if you're going to just try and get, either a return to work or, you feel like you might have had an exposure, the PCR test is the test that you want.
Okay.
Okay.
And then one last question for Terry.
Yes.
With regards to the legislation that may make the calendar for local control over state control over zoning, I would love to meet with you in person over this to make sure we're on the same page. Or maybe we're not on the same page. But with regards to that, do you want to do it sooner, or you want to do it till after the calendar comes out to see if any bills are going to be on the calendar for your session that starts in January?
Well, they will be on the calendar. That's absolutely definite. Just given the interest and the enthusiasm from the supporters on this issue. Yes, let's meet, and it's best to focus on the concepts rather than specific details of the language, because we don't know exactly what the language will look like, though we know already what the concepts are. So yes,
Okay.
happy to meet.
That's fine. All right, I'll reach out on site to try to get a date.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Terry.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
Okay, thank you. And I see that Seth has arrived. Hello, Seth. I think you're on mute, though. If you could unmute yourself, please. Seth, I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, green light.
Well, welcome, Seth, and congratulations to you on your support for continuing as moderator of the RTM.
Thank you very much. It's really a brave new world every day in the RTM, because there's just a lot of detail to it, as Kate would be more than willing to attest. just trying to put the pieces together so that we have meetings, we know who's running them, and we can accommodate all of the rules that are associated with a public meeting. I think Wayne Fox is tired of hearing from me, but we're getting it done. And we've had the organizational meeting where the different districts have elected their chairs and members of the Rules Committee. Rules Committee has met and assigned people to the committees of the RTM. Committees are meeting this week and on to Monday to elect their officers, and then we'll be ready to go for the state of the town here in December. And so we're going to do the state of the town virtually. With the spike in COVID, there just doesn't seem to be a smart way to have people attend in some way other than virtually. So each of the addresses will come in over, I guess it will be GoToMeeting, and we'll just continue to the tradition.
They set the question about that, if I may.
Yeah,
Please,
right.
John.
So had you thought about kind of doing like they do for sports, right? So have all the town officials actually go to town hall where you could speak in front of a microphone and have slides or whatever you want to do, but no one in the auditorium. In other words, it's broadcast live from town hall as opposed to this particular format where everybody's on a screen like that. I don't know what everybody thinks of all that, but it just, I don't know.
We thought
like it might seem more real. I don't know.
I agree, John. I support that.
We were thinking keeping it simple and just doing it all on the you know, on GoToMeeting. We have screen sharing so that if you have slides that you can put them up, and it just seems like a better way. It will be broadcast. I talked to Jim Cameron and he can broadcast it. So it just seemed the simplest way to go about it. So I leave it to you with that.
I think it's fine. I mean, we certainly can do that. I mean, Exhibit A, we're doing that right now, but it struck me that actually having everybody speak in front of a podium and just have nobody at town hall have the same live broadcast, have their ability to switch between slides if people have slides, might just have a more real feel to it. But I don't know what everybody else thinks. I mean, it is an RTM meeting, so you can decide whatever format you want. But I don't know,
So
JB,
like Michigan, Ohio State, where they're playing the game at the big house, but there's nobody in the stands.
well, yeah, that's actually what I had in mind. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, I support that format too, John. And, you know, happy to take this conversation offline with the moderator.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Great idea.
We're flexible
Perfect.
as we have to be.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Seth? No? Okay, then I will move on to my report. Let's see. A few things to report today. First, I want to also congratulate Terry and our other representatives, Matt Blumenthal, Carla Leone, and Bob Duff, for their successful re-elections. It was an interesting election, to say the least. Also, big shout out to our registrars of voters and the folks in our town clerk's office for the rigor of their work this election season, especially in light of the fact that our beloved town clerk Karen Diller got ill, and sadly I'm reporting that she passed this past weekend. Very abrupt, aggressive case of glioblastoma, as reported in her obituary today. We are heartbroken over Karen's passing. Quite frankly, we're all a little bit in shock about that. A lot of employees, very unexpected. So we're trying to adjust, but I did want to share that there will be a public wake for Karen this Thursday evening from 4 to 8 p.m. at Lawrence Funeral Home. And I'd like to ask for everyone to keep Nick and their children and all of Karen's family in your prayers. Let's talk COVID a little bit. There is no question that we are experiencing a significant increase in positive case identification. Part of that, I'm sure, is because there's a lot more testing going on right now, but I think there's a tremendous amount of transmission going on. For example, since November 9th, we have had 46 cases, positive cases of COVID reported for the town of Darien. 36 of those cases are in people between the ages of 10 and 59. So that's really the target. You know, we saw early on that the demographic was folks that were older, but now it's really in the kids to the, you know, folks that are middle-aged like me. So it requires a heightened level of diligence and safety right now. The schools report on their dashboard, and this gives you a good sense for what the impact of a case of COVID can do in our community. They have 20 positive cases currently, resulting in 295 quarantines. So the ripple effect of a positive case really can't be understated. And, you know, I share the governor's sentiments that our primary objective should be to keep kids in school. And I know that our district has done yeoman's work to make sure that can happen, especially our youngest learners. So I very much appreciate that while high school and middle school are hybrid, that our elementary kids are in fact going to school, and that's an optimal format for learning. But we all play a role in helping to make sure that our kids can continue to go to school by our own behaviors. Spread continues to be problematic through in-home private gatherings. You know, it's great to see your friends, have 10 or 12 friends at home, and you don't think that it's going to be a problem, but it is a problem. The governor has recommended that you don't gather in groups of more than 10, both in your home and out in public. Those rules extend to the upcoming holiday season. That's hard. That's really hard to do. I know that we're all suffering from COVID fatigue, and we want to see our families, we want to see our friends, but we can't let down our guard right now. Sports, youth sports and club sports continue to be problematic, and I'm holding a meeting a little bit later today with a number of my colleague chief elected officials in Southwestern Connecticut to talk about what our approach should be. We seem to have some latitude given to us by the state on this about youth and club sports. So more on that to come. We are now, as I'm sure you know, in phase 2.1, as outlined by the governor and his team from DECD. That's a hardship on our local restaurants. I'm really worried about our local businesses. Restaurants, last call now for food and drink is at 9:30. They have to shut their doors by 10. Pickup and takeout can continue, but essentially what that does is it reduces the ability to, it sort of cuts down from possibly 3 seatings an evening to 2 seatings. And that's a real business case hardship on our local businesses. So I encourage everybody to continue the support of our local businesses. Corbin Cares and the Darien Chamber of Commerce have partnered on a unique initiative to support local business. So take a look at that and get out and take your selfies and enter yourself into a raffle and really help boost shopping local and supporting our local restaurants. That's the only way they're going to get through. I'm pleased to announce that we had a little bit of a glitch with local COVID testing. Today, we have begun operation of a new testing partner called Everpoint Health. Everpoint is run by CEO and medical advisor Caleb Moore. He has a private practice in Greenwich Medical Partners, very highly respected. He does testing for some private schools and a lot of corporations. So I'm also pleased to announce that we will have testing available, same location, Leroy West parking lot. It will now be available 6 days a week, essentially from 8:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m., Monday through Friday. And on Saturdays, some Saturdays, not all Saturdays, but some Saturdays from 10 to 2. And the portal to register, if you go to everpointhealth.com, you can read all about Everpoint Health and you can register to have a test and you'll see the testing schedule. The important difference with this testing provider is that they are an out-of-network provider, which means they do not interface at all with your insurance provider. You must pay out of pocket for your COVID tests. You'll get a receipt and a statement with the appropriate coding you can send to your insurance company to see if you can get reimbursement, but you have to pay for your test at the time of registration. They are offering 2 different kinds of tests. The gold standard test, which I talked about, which is the PCR test. That test costs $200 out of pocket. They offer the antigen test as well, $200 out of pocket. You should only have an antigen test if you have symptoms, but there might be people who want to have that really quick answer. So they're offering a bundle of both tests you can get at the same time for a cost of $325. Again, you pay that out of pocket and then you submit to your insurance company. I'm very pleased to be offering that expanded service to the town of Darien through Everpoint Health. They are not the only testing provider. You can go on 211ct.org and find a comprehensive list of all testing partners here in Connecticut and more locally. Community Health Center, some CVSs offer testing, the Tully Center, but Everpoint is a great option for people more locally. The really exciting thing about the partnership with Everpoint Health is Dr. Moore is well poised to be in line for vaccine distribution when it's available to the general public. So we are hoping that we will be able to transition seamlessly from testing protocols to vaccine distribution. Dr. Moore works very closely with David Knopf, our health director. So we will be keeping tabs on that and sharing information publicly about vaccines as that information is available. A couple other things, Board of Selectmen related. The Board of Selectmen received a report from Blum Shapiro, our consultant on a technology assessment. We are really looking to move forward an effort to change and enhance technology services for the town of Darien, and very much look forward to working with the Board of Education and the district on how we can collectively work together to enhance our information technology, infrastructure, maintenance, and management. So Duke, we're going to be reaching out to you and Dr. Adley and Jeff Adams to have a follow-up conversation.
Look forward to it.
Great. We're also undertaking a charter review, which has raised some questions of people in the RTM. Over the years, Kate Bush and those of us serving in local government have seen some sort of administrative changes, things that need to be changed, that no longer are actually operational in the way we conduct our business. So that got us thinking. We've asked the Board of Selectmen to undertake a process to review the charter and make some suggestions. Right now, we are in the review phase where Board of Selectmen members are throwing out some ideas only. We don't know if any of those ideas will make it through the vetting voting process of the Board of Selectmen. If they do, they will be referred to the RTM, who has exclusive control over whether there are any modifications at all made to the town charter. So this is really a goodwill initiative, and hopefully should be viewed only as that. Nothing nefarious behind this. We're not looking to usurp the power of the RTM in any way or give anyone else new or additional powers. We're just looking to try and make government function and our charter read and function a little bit better. So regarding some of the things that you heard earlier about potential legislation that will be coming forward, there are some initiatives that have strong support from the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. And why that's important is CCM, as they're commonly known, is the state's largest municipal advocacy group. So when they get behind something, they have a loud voice up in Hartford. And they are supportive of this zoning and housing reform agenda. There's a committee internal that's working to review the proposals at CCM. So I will let you know where that falls out. I am letting my voice be heard on those things on behalf of the town of Darien, but there will be something coming forward supported by CCM on zoning and housing reform. Additionally, and not really on anyone's radar yet, but sat in on a presentation yesterday by the Collins Center from UMass, is another sweeping reform agenda being offered through CCM on property tax reform. And I will share the document when I'm allowed to share it, certainly with you, John, because it is a strong shift to county government. And with that comes a potential shift of tax structure and tax collection, tax assessment, and service delivery through the councils of governments. I think we knew that that might be coming when the COGS were formed back in 2015, and it's here. The proposal is here, and that will be moving forward. Additionally, CCM has formed a partnership with the Dalio Foundation to address inequities in technology. So I don't have much information on that. That wasn't a board decision to form that partnership. So I'm getting more information about that. That seems like a very worthwhile endeavor, so I look forward to getting more information. Duke, you mentioned the virtual Oxbridge parent meeting tonight, state of the town. Seth, what are you hoping for in terms of length of presentation for our speeches this year, given that we're in a virtual format?
Usually they don't go beyond 15 minutes, as I recall, and you can correct me. But I think that's fine. If you need more time, I would use it. You know, it's a time for the leadership of the town to talk about where they think we are right now. So I would look at it from that point of view. It's a chance for leadership to get out and project what they're seeing. I would not want to put a lot of restriction on there. I can intimate to you a dose factor. So if we get a little long, we can lose some audience. So you can sort of balance it that way. So I would just leave it a little bit open so that you have the flexibility to cover what the ground you need to cover.
Okay, do you have an order of speakers yet?
Yes, we do. We will be, it's actually published, but the distinguished chair of planning and zoning will lead us off. Chair of the Board of Education, Duke, gets to go next. John, with I'm sure one of his impeccable PowerPoint presentations, and then you, Jamie.
Great. So being last, I get to be short to accommodate the dose factor. I get that. Okay, thank you very much for that guidance. The last thing that I want to share is a little bit of just a community volunteer public service announcement. Given there's so many people in need this holiday season, the Youth Commission is doing a drive-through food drive. That's going to happen in the Coons parking lot on Saturday, December 5th from 9 to noon. So person to person is looking for their typical food pantry items: jelly, cereal, oatmeal, mac and cheese, pancake mix, pasta and sauce, canned tuna or chicken, and powdered milk. And they're also looking for fresh produce. So anybody that wants to lend a helping hand to folks that are food insecure, please donate some food on December 5th between 9 and 12 in the Coons Lot. You don't have to get out of your car. Volunteers will be there and receive your generous donations. Is there anything else that anyone wants to raise in terms of business for this meeting?
I would note for you that we formed a technology committee, 3 people in the rules committee of the RTM, mostly to deal with the technology that's available to us and having these meetings, and also seeing which kinds of technology are best for a given situation, and also the protocols that we're going to use. We have 100 people, and it sounds easy, but believe me, my friends, it gets complex real fast, right, Kate? So we do have a committee doing that, and also they'll look at Blum Shapiro to see, if there's any impact on us, and if we see something where we could just mention something to you, whatever, we'll do that.
Who are the members of the committee, Seth? Who are the members of that committee?
Lois Schneider is running it. Mike Wheeler is on it, and Mark Adeletta. And they all have well, Mike, of course, hosts these things and has intimate knowledge of the GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar. So he's great for that. Lois and Mark do it as part of their work. So it's I think they're a good group.
Terrific. And that's a great prompt. I really do want to thank Kate Bush. Kate's the town administrator. She does everything and then some for the town. Being the administrator for RTM meetings isn't exactly in her job description, but she took up that task immediately and willingly, and has been just critical to the functioning of the virtual meetings for the RTM, along with Cecil Wade. So big shout out to them. Thank you for taking on that. It's not such an easy task. Steve, did you have another question?
It was a little bit of a question, a little bit of a statement. I think at the same time, the governor extended the outdoor seating, or you extended the outdoor seating. P&Z administratively told Jeremy to make sure our outdoor seating runs concurrently with the state regulations. The only caveat to that, I told Jeremy to, is make sure our health department is okay with any accessory outdoor seatings, that the building department is okay, because a lot of these guys put flaps on the side. And then I don't also know, I thought this was going to be done by July, but I'm 100% wrong. The last piece was Public Works, because these things, some of these are on town property, and if Public Works has snow shoveling that has to happen on those, that gets coordinated. So we don't want to step on anybody else's toes.
That's great. I appreciate that you've extended that under the governor's allowance to do so. And yes, the health department does have to be involved, because there has to be appropriate ventilation. You can't have
Right.
full sides on a tent and indoor heaters. That's just an extension of your indoor seating space. So I appreciate that coordination.
Then the one other just quick item was, hey Duke, I saw your Malone and McBroom document with regards to school population. I just would ask you to double check it. I think that the federal project with their 159 units or 126 is going to come online a year earlier than Malone and McBroom suggested. And that
Okay.
was something I got most recently from Federal Realty. So I don't know if you
Okay.
got PowerPoint presentation or not.
Good. No, and the other thing I brought up at the meeting, and I don't know where it's at, Steve, we can take it offline, is the Parklands project. That at one point you discussed being almost 52 units.
Yeah, that's 2025.
Okay. Thanks.
I want to make sure you're ready now. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Seth.
We did mention that the Board of Selectmen was working on charter revision items. I took a look at a list that looked like a good deal of housekeeping. It's just among the Rules Committee to alert them. Frank Kemp's committee, the TGS&A committee, would be intimately involved with it when it materializes, when you come to the point where you've got something that you want to bring to the RTM. I mean, we'd be happy to have people sit in with you if you would like, but you can kind of get back to me on what you'd like to do with that. But at any rate, we don't have really much to do until something comes forward.
We would welcome the interaction with a member or members of TGS&A. You're welcome to come to any of our meetings where that's on our agenda for discussion. Collaboration usually results in a good outcome, so thank you.
Okay.
Any other business for today? We do have meeting minutes of October 21st to approve. Linda sent those to you electronically. So if you've had a chance to review those minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve if there's no edits.
I'll move that.
Thank you, John. May I have a second?
Second that.
Steve seconds. Is there any further discussion on the October 21st minutes? Then all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. And Mr. Loveland, you joined us as a guest today. Is there any public comment that you wish to offer?
No, I have nothing today. I just was dialing in to get up to speed on the town.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Seth. May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah,
Thank
happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Same.
Talk to you later, Kate.